life. Hope everyone is doing well. This week's topic is about unassisted birth, free birth. What are my thoughts on it? Would I ever do it? Have I ever done it? You get the idea. So, I have not ever done an unassisted childbirth. I have my one daughter. She's 11 months old. I unfortunately had her in a hospital, which, whatever. Everything happens for a reason and whatever, but I have definitely made up my mind in that if I ever have another child, I don't know if I will or not, but if I do, it'll definitely be unassisted, so long as I'm comfortable with that at the time, and I know everything's okay. I have some notes here that I'm going to be looking at because I want to be able to flow a little bit. Feeling kind of scattered these days. I don't know. Springtime, man, just got so much going on, spring cleaning and lots of stuff. So, my thoughts on free birth. I think it's totally amazing. I think it's totally natural. I'm all for it. The first thing I want to talk about is orgasmic birth and the opportunity to have an orgasmic birth. Now, I'm really intimate with my partner. Spiritually, we're very close. And during labor, even though I was at the hospital and I had my sister and whatever, it's like I found myself automatically going to that place of trying to make the sensations I was feeling feel good. I was trying to get into an aroused state. And it was kind of intuitive when it was happening. It was definitely intuitive when it was happening. I feel like everything in labor is intuitive. Kind of really, it takes you to another place, and you mamas know what I mean. But there was still a lot of restraint, and I feel like if I had been at home, or anyone that is at home, has so much more time and opportunity to do whatever it is necessary to create the ideal situation, the ideal feelings to accommodate birth, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, and I feel like, just to kind of touch on orgasmic birth a little bit, to me, it makes sense. You guys maybe have heard this before, but, it's the way the baby got in there, it should be the way the baby comes out of there, but I feel like it goes a lot deeper than that. I can't think of any other time where I'm, spread eagle, legs open, and open down there, you know what I mean? Blood comes down there, when you're in an aroused state, that whole region of your body is more open, and, lubricated, there's already a fluid motion happening there, and it's open, you know what I mean? And to me, that makes perfect sense. Like, you would want everything down there to be loose and open, and like I said, I can't think of any other time that it feels more open than during a state of arousal, and also the endorphins. When you're in that heightened state, I don't know what's too much information here. This is already a pretty into it kind of topic, but you can experience like pain thresholds and all kinds of things change when you're aroused. When you're in that passion, you're in the throes of passion, and you're, brain chemistry is different at that time, you know what I mean? You can experience all kinds of different things. Your mind can take it from here, but, so it's not just like a weird, like, hippie thing or just weirdo thing. Like, it's really true. It's totally possible to have an orgasm during birth, and I feel like if I had been in the right circumstances, that I could have obtained that in this last childbirth that I had. And I feel like if I had another childbirth and it was similar to the one that I had already had, it would be totally possible. Like, I feel like I could go into this knowing exactly what to do, so long as my body was still in gear to do it the way it did before. Now, I had a really fast labor. Okay, and this leads me into the next part of my notes, which is, I think that childbirth is, unassisted childbirth, and just birth in general, is so empowering for women. It's an empowering thing. It feels good, especially in contrast to, most of the types of birth, or our birthing culture in this society, to be able to be liberated from all that and know that you don't need anybody else's anything to get through this and to do that. I mean, it's super empowering, but I don't think that's something I'm just going to leave it at that. It's empowering. But I personally feel like less is more. It's empowering, but it's so natural, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that empowerment should be like, it's like an inherent right, you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't even be like, oh, I'm so empowered because I did this and I didn't need it. It's like, in my opinion, none of that stuff should really even be being forced down your throat like it is. And when I think of birth, I think of, I really feel like less is more. You know what I mean? There's no reason for, I'm not going to say no reason. I'm using a lot of blanket statements, Sam. And I'm just going to put the disclaimer right here. Obviously, this does not apply to every situation. Obviously, the woman needs to be confident and comfortable and, really being close with her own self and knowing her own body and, making sure that this is a healthy pregnancy and that it is going to be a normal, natural delivery, without complications and things like that. But given that that is the situation, and I'm just going to, I guess, speak from my personal perspective, which is that Corey, so my husband's watching me talk to the camera. So you're here, right? You've been pregnant for 9 months. You've been doing your day-to-day thing for 9 months. Why is it that all of a sudden you go into labor? It's like this whole thing is disrupted. Your whole day-to-day natural flow is completely disrupted. More often than not, you get up, you go to the hospital, you call everyone on the phone, and you drive to the hospital, and whatever. That leads to a whole other thing. The hospital birth, get checked in, you have to wait, you have to get examined, you have to go in and do all these things, get put on an IV, change your clothes, get into a gown, yada, 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 whatever, right? And then, like me, I had a quick birth. I was only in labor like 8 hours, start to finish, so doing all that crap and taking the 2 hours to just relax and be like, whoa, I'm in labor, like, get back into my own rhythm. That was like so many interruptions that were totally unnecessary, completely unnecessary. But I feel like, for me personally, and like I said, it all kind of ties back to being able to have the ultimate birth, the orgasmic birth. Given the amount of time that I had, with the amount of interruptions that I had, there wasn't enough time to get comfortable or whatever. And then given the environment, it didn't allow for the opportunity to set up what needed to, happen to make that happen. And I almost feel like, too, if I were to have another birth, I would be home. I don't really feel like I'd want to be in labor, giving birth, and having company. I don't want to be, because that's how I am, and maybe it's because I'm a Cancer, and I'm, like, all homely and whatever, but when I have company, I like to entertain, I like to host the people, and I feel like that instinct in me could interrupt my natural flow, not even that they would be doing anything, but just having a presence there, especially with the intention to supervise or whatever, it totally changes the energy of me and of a room, and, so yeah. And then I have another note here. Oh, well, yeah, which is that there's no need for anxiety, in my opinion, around birth and around labor, and I really feel like our culture, and especially like the media, and we've been kind of given this ingrained image of an idea. We've been built an image in our mind of what birth is, and it's a loud, painful, stressful thing where the woman just seems out of control in the hospital and whatever, and I feel like that fear is not natural for pregnancy, I feel like all of pregnancy should be a really spiritual thing. If not spiritual, it should be, you should give yourself the time to be in touch with yourself, to be in touch with the being within you, to get to know yourself and to address. Okay, my phone died, but I'm back. Just trying to finish up what I was saying, which is that I feel like birth is totally natural. I don't think it's something to be afraid of or something to be, you shouldn't be associating it with pain and a bad experience. It's a totally natural thing, and I feel like every woman has the opportunity, or I feel like every woman has the capacity to have an amazing experience, an amazing childbirth. Now, I also feel like it's totally normal to have anxieties and, fears and little things like that, but if you take the time during the 9 months that you're pregnant to be in touch with yourself, to recognize these fears and anxieties when they come up and work through them, that by the time you are in labor and ready to give birth, you could have been able to have resolved all those bad feelings and be ready to have this amazing birth, that is just sitting inside you waiting to happen, And I feel like the disruption and the displacement that happens to so many women, myself included, during labor, it's just kind of, it just gets in the way. Like I said, less is more. I really don't feel like we need to be bringing in all these extra stimuli and these extra situations and drugs and machines and all kinds of crazy things, Of course, some situations, I'm sure there's many women out there that are very thankful there was a hospital around for their birth, but those are the exceptions, and I really feel like it's important for us to know and understand and believe in our hearts and erase those images that were put in our minds from TV shows and the media and all that stuff in a time we're itty bitty, Even in cartoons they depict the woman, it's erase all that and at least acknowledge and understand and believe that it's possible to have these amazing, profound births. Munchkin's waking up from her nap. And my only birth that I had was unfortunately in a hospital, and it was freaking terrible. I refused an IV that they forced me to have. They left me on the birthing table, didn't give me a room, harassed me. I don't want to be sitting there having to refuse vaccinations, sign all this paperwork, do all this crap. And they gave me Pitocin against my will. They had given me the IV while I was in the throes of labor, didn't even wait for me to come out of the contraction, just shoved it in. My arm was this big for a week. 2.5 weeks. After giving birth, my arm was still bruised and swollen from the shoddy IV that they gave me, which I refused halfway through. They were like, "Oh, almost got it, okay." And when you're in labor, you're not in any position to be, standing up for yourself and, trying to, I was, hardly in reality, you know what I mean? Not to mention being no, I said no. It's I'm in labor, I'm about to have this baby. It happened so quick, and so it's just totally unnecessary. And when I was done, I look up and I'm like, whoa, what's in my IV? Oh, that's Pitocin. I was I told you that they didn't want any medications. Oh, it's almost done. It's why'd you give me Pitocin? Oh, it helps to stop the bleeding. It's oh, was I bleeding too much? I said, no, it's a precautionary measure. It's well, really? You don't need that. And that leads me to my next thought, which is that I personally feel like the safest place for a pregnant woman to give birth is at home. We're given this idea that, going to the hospital is a safer place, or that having, going to a birthing center is a safer place. But I feel like being at home is the safest place, where you're around, familiar surroundings where you know how to function in your space, where you're around people that know you and know what you want and know what's, know you and know what's good for you and what's not, Being in a hospital with a bunch of people that, and maybe this is just me personally, but I live in Flagstaff and I'm relatively young, and I know a lot of people that are in the medical field that, they're 3 years graduated in high school and, from college, they still go home to their dirty little roommate situation and party down and blah, 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 and then go in for their shift, probably kind of hungover even, and, go wipe the old lady's ass in that room and then come over to my room and give birth to my baby. It's like, that's really not the kind of environment I want to be in. I don't want to be in a hospital with sick people. And, what about these other thoughts that, like, MRSA? Like, people get sick from hospitals, you know what I mean? That's sort of like the people that are in the worst condition are in the hospital. Like, why would you want to bring this new baby in and trust that everyone is upholding to the proper sanitation thing? That's another thing. They dropped needles from the IVs that they couldn't get in my arm, like, on the ground. Like, they were not clean. They were not whatever. And, sorry, I'm on a little rant about my birth here. But it was intense, and I really will never put myself through that again if I don't have to. And, and maybe it's just because it's me personally because I'm a Cancer and I'm all homely or whatever, but if I were to have a home birth, I don't know if I'd really want to have company besides, like, close family, I don't know if I'd want a midwife. Like, just the energy of having someone around could put me, on edge. And I start thinking about things like when I have company. It's so deep in me, like, oh, my dishes aren't done, and, oh, like, don't sit there, that's where the cat pewed last, week, or weird stuff like that, It's like, I could see even just having the presence of someone there, especially with the intention to supervise, as kind of, like, disruptive to my natural flow, So I don't know. And I don't know the answers. I can't say what is the thing to do for every woman to be able to obtain an amazing, profound, beautiful, possibly even orgasmic birth. But I know for what I could do for myself. And I feel like having unassisted is like the first step. Knowing that I can be in my home and be in my own energy, in my own space, and have the opportunity to do what I want when I want. If I want to take off my clothes and lay, on the ground on my back, or if I want to do weird things, whatever. It's like sit upside down, whatever. I can't even think off the top of my head, but, be intimate with my husband, or kiss, or take a shower, or get in the bath, or whatever. I want to be able to do that, and I just know from experience the feeling of, and I had a really bad hospital birth. It was, like, really, like, it kind of traumatized me. And it's a bummer because I know I was so close if I had just done a few things differently, which was to simplify the situation. If I had just stayed right where I was, continued to labor, and not disrupt my natural flow, it could have been epic. And the next birth I have, if I have one, I'm going to take it to that level. I'm going to try, So that's kind of what I got. I feel like I'm kind of shortening you guys out of this because my phone died, and I had to stop mid-sentence and, like, for, like, an hour and come back. The lighting's probably all different and whatever, but, I feel like it's really important for women to do what is most natural for them. If you're not comfortable or confident having an unassisted birth, then by all means don't, because I personally feel like the fear, will play a role in the delivery and in the birth and in the experience, If you want somebody there to help make you feel more comfortable, then by all means, do whatever it is to make yourself comfortable. You know what I mean? Do what you want to do as the mother, and don't let yourself be pressured by outside forces. Don't let other people disrupt your flow, Be true to yourself and confident enough in yourself and know what you want so that you can do what is best for you, so you can have the best birth possible for you, That's my cue. I gotta go, waking up my baby, but I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.